Aloha, everybody. Welcome to Optimize Your Naʻau podcast. Today we have two special guests from STEMREGEN, Christian Drapeau and Stephanie Drapeau. Christian Drapeau is an author, stem cell scientist, and founder of STEMREGEN, chief science officer as well. Stephanie has a background as an actor, filmmaker, creative writer, and co-founder, chief brand officer of STEMREGEN. You can also follow them at Stem Cell Christian, at Stephanie Drapeau, as well as at STEMREGEN on Instagram. Their website is stemregen.co, and you can read Cracking the Stem Cell Code, and where he reveals about how you can harness the power of your own stem cells to slow aging and boost healing.
Awesome. Do you folks come to Hawaii often?
I have been to Maui,
Maui, okay.
like 3 times in the last 2 years, I believe, like more than usual. And then I was there as a child. We were in, Kauai and Honolulu. I was 7 years old, so it was one of my first vacation memories. I loved it. I loved it, and we have just beautiful family memories. I remember waking up and really early, because of course I wasn't used to the 4-hour time difference from California, and getting up and walking in the rain all the way to the ocean. And it was a very memorable time. But we don't go there really often.
Not that often. I lectured quite a bit on the Big Island years ago.
Okay.
Very nice.
Years ago, I've been a number, like maybe, I don't know, half a dozen times to the Big Island.
And
Maui.
he has an
times.
amazing dolphin story that you'll have to hear about.
Oh.
It was like the island initiation for him.
It's beautiful.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Well, the Big Island is beautiful, and there's such powerful energy there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've been told we need to go back to Kauai, right?
The Kauai.
Yeah.
There's a lot of deep history and origins of mana or power that come from Kauai. It's the oldest island.
Yeah. Yeah.
The oldest island, you mean being inhabited or being formed?
In the chain, formed.
Oh, in the chain.
Formed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Big Island where you have been to, where you lectured at, that's the youngest, and it's still growing. It's still on the hot spot. There's still active volcanoes. That's why it's just like has so much energy there.
So these islands were all born from volcanic eruption?
Correct.
Okay.
From the same hot spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was that? What year?
So I don't know the exact year, but what is interesting is there's a lot of Lemurian crystals that you can find here in Hawaii. And so when you look back, a long time ago, Lemuria, when Atlantis, existed, Lemuria was one of the bigger continents that actually used to connect all of the Polynesian islands. So Samoa, Fiji, Tahiti, Hawaii was part of that. Obviously, that hot spot. So the continent had broke up, just like, how whatever happened to Atlantis, it was like the same time. But the people here were called Lemurians, and apparently they looked a lot like the Polynesians today. And so that hot spot is part of that Lemurian continent, is where.
Interesting.
Wow.
Because they did find a people in, I don't know exactly where. I know it's somewhere in the Polynesian island, where they have a DNA that is completely unconnected to any of the human database that we have today.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So yes.
I love that we're having this one.
Okay.
We were just talking about this.
We do have a lot of, we call it the kumulipo, which is, in every
culture,
tribal culture, there's a story of how their people start, right? And if you look at a lot of our what they call tikis or statues, there are experts that can actually describe them as a type of alien. And so when you look in Hawaiian history, there is evidence, right? When you look at our, I guess you would call it our petroglyphs.
petroglyphs, but even the the mythology that they
Right, the
describe
mythology. Right.
through these stories. We call them mo'olelo, or stories. Yeah,
Yeah, these gods were born from non-human
yeah.
species. Yeah. So, yeah.
And the Polynesian people were known to be very well versed in astrology, and just the awareness of the planets and the stars.
Yeah.
That we're not alone, and that we're floating on a speck of dust in a massive universe. That's constantly expanding and much larger than what we are currently aware of. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Or that is part of
Absolutely.
our everyday history.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, even technologies that even you folks came up with. I mean, to me, when we read your book and look at some of the science, I mean, that's goes beyond human thinking, really. It was almost like you were inspired by something bigger than all of us.
Yeah.
It's funny because years ago, maybe 10 years ago by now, I was sitting with some Hindu kind of reading, astrologer, for lack of a better description. And he didn't know what I was doing. And at some point he says, you were one of these ancient Rishi, and what you were doing back then, he said, you were like stimulating like little particles of light in the body that go and repair everything in the body. And he stopped and he says, and you're still doing this now. And no, or you came back like you're redoing the same thing. And change the word particle of light for just stem cells, and you get the whole message. So apparently I've started this
many lifetimes ago.
Many lifetimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I believe it.
Before I even saw you physically, which would be at probably the biohacking conference or something,
many years ago. Yeah.
But when we first got the brain tap, honest to God, the meditation that I would do every single night was yours. There was something about it. It was about your voice. It was the energy of it.
It was
but I knew,
it was the words chosen as well.
Yeah, like you were really a healer.
Yeah.
And that's what I would carry with me, into sleep after listening to your meditation. Yeah.
Beautiful.
But it does really pair really well also with the STEMREGEN, if you don't mind me saying.
This is before we had STEMREGEN.
It was kind of crazy, how you can make that connection, using the brain tap, and while you're having STEMREGEN within your own system, you're literally making a connection externally and internally. And I thought that was such a magical connection.
And it's not a common practice.
Yeah.
Sure. So I don't know, can you talk about that? Like how that came about? Did the meditation come first? Did the STEMREGEN come first?
I mean, I've been meditating at the time, of course, I was not calling it like that, but I started very young. I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 10. By age 13, 14, I got a book called Super Learning that was really talking about all kinds of ways of using the mind. So I've been doing this way before I even went to college and did any of these studies. So that probably precedes everything. But in terms of the repair that you're talking to me, what is behind this meditation is something that has always stayed with me. I was probably a teen in Montreal when there is this fellow that dove into a swimming pool, and there was something like a foot or two of water, but he thought it was much deeper, and he broke his neck. So he was fully paralyzed. And then the small documentary was about how 2-3 years later he had recovered full mobility, and he was describing how he would be laying on his back in his bed, in his chair, wherever, and he would spend his entire time visualizing light that was reconnecting his spinal cord. And it always stayed with me because I'm a scientist that even as a teen, to me, like if a man can fly, that means we can all fly. If one can fly and then you try to make 20 fly in a study and none of them can fly, science would normally tell you, therefore the other one was not real. And for me, it's no, therefore you need to change your protocol and look harder. So if one person could reconnect his spinal cord, that means there's something that we can do to reconnect. And after discovering all of this on stem cells, it just stayed in my mind like he has simply been guiding his stem cells through a visualization. And we know today that the paths in the brain exist to really guide stem cells in that way. So that's kind of the basis of that meditation.
That's awesome. I mean, that's just how energy in general works, right? And so what we're doing is we're just getting specific on the type of energy that we want to move in our body, and then asking
Correct.
it to be intentional about what we're asking it to do.
Right.
And it's behind the intellectual part of it. Like whether we understand that it's a stem cell or not really does not matter. The intention that is behind the place where we position ourselves in this process is really the whole power of it. And sometimes we think to probably overthink things too much, thinking we need to understand for it to be
Yes.
active, and it's not.
Yes.
Yeah. That's definitely the power of meditation that we have experience-wise, of being able to find our ground and feel a little bit more balanced before we start welcoming in this energy and tap into our body's own ability to heal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what makes STEMREGEN, so special too. I think a lot of people, I want to say, obsess sometimes about bringing in more when they are already so full of other things.
Yes.
Right? And so being able to detox, rid, or, get rid of the stuff that are not useful anymore, whether it be, spiritually, physically, right, emotionally, mentally, all of those things. And that's what I feel like is so special about the actual STEMREGEN supplement, that it does that too.
I mean, we've always known, and you can summarize that also. You talk oftentimes about it, but we've in naturopathic medicine, in all chiropractics, in all kinds of so-called alternative medicine, we've always talked about the body's natural ability to heal. The body's intelligent; it has its own healing power, but we never had a mechanism of action behind it.
It was invisible. It's like we're kids and we heal so fast as children, and we see it, in lightning speed. You fall off a bike, you bust open your knee, and boom, the next week it's healed, because we're like powerhouses of healing when we're kids. We didn't know why. Why then jump forward 30, 40 years? Does it take forever? You barely nick your leg on your shin on the table, and it's like weeks later, it's still healing. What happened between point A and point B? We just call it aging. And it is aging, but there's a strong correlation between aging and the number of stem cells. So when we're kids, we're jam-packed full of stem cells. All of our bone marrow has red marrow. Red marrow releases stem cells, creates stem cells. And as we age, that red marrow turns to yellow fatty marrow. Fatty marrow does not release stem cells. So we just shrink our pool of stem cells, which is why we heal so fast when we're little, why we don't when we're older. And while STEMREGEN won't take us back to 7 years old, full on stem cell potential, it will help, put more in circulation, which gives us back that, enhances our innate healing potential.
For sure. And we can attest to it too. I mean, even prior to pregnancy, for Dara, and at least for myself too, just looking back at all the history of athletic injuries that I went through, as well as some trauma that we underwent, through an event that we did that set us back quite a bit, but opened us up to other opportunities. It was interesting to notice how quickly within the first week, the pain that I was suffering through periodically, especially after I was starting to get back into a workout routine, it was just interesting to notice how much, or how quickly the pain decreased. Changes in temperature when we would go traveling, I would always usually get some kind of ache, but noticing that when we were traveling, especially when we were using STEMREGEN, I just didn't even have it anymore. I didn't even realize it. We were doing activities, we were doing hiking, and I was like, hey, you know what? I don't have that same ache in my back or in my ankle or in my hip as much as I used to. As a matter of fact, even working on my mobility practices, became a lot more simple. I mean, even my gut biome started to, I started to notice a lot of difference within my gut biome and brain function.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing what the body naturally does, right? And then you
Yeah.
take something that nature created, and Christian just happened to scientifically investigate it, understand it, research it, and see what powerful plants around the world tap into our body's natural healing potential, and then concentrate those extracts, put them all into one little easy to take supplement, so we don't have to forage out and scout the world every morning to get our plants and herbs. And so it's really just nature and humans evolving in symbiosis, and then you get the researcher who kind of downloads the information and finds the wisdom to help bring that to light for humanity, so we can, because we're living longer, and so we want to live longer, and we want to be full of life that whole time, not sick as we live longer, right?
Yeah, and I want to, talk about that real quick. You folks said something earlier that was so beautiful, about extending life, not for, purposes of being vain or being fearful of aging, right? But to be able to fully live out your purpose. And I loved that you folks said that. That was beautiful.
Resonates for sure.
No,
Yeah.
What is life for? But
Yeah.
evolving and growing and discovering and understanding ourselves more deeply and more wholly and more fully, so we can express the truth of ourselves. Because the first several years, depending on, when you first start to wake up to yourself, are just figuring out like how this body works and how the hormones work, and we're sort of flailing and flubbing and copying what other people are doing. And then there's that moment that it's different for each of us when we suddenly realize, like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm here for. And wow, life is precious, and life doesn't last forever. And this is I better really be here fully and live it and express myself and know who I truly am in relation to the world and others. And then boom, sometimes soon after discovering that, you get sick. And then like sickness and or disease or whatever it is can consume you. And it's hard. So it's hard to live life fully when you're in pain every day. I mean, you can, but when you're in pain every day and when you're struggling every day. And so we believe that the gift to the world was STEMREGEN is giving back, help the body to renew and heal itself, so you can live fully and live your purpose fully and be available for whatever each of us are here to do, which is a little different purpose for each of us.
That's beautiful.
We grow a little bit like Stephanie was saying. You cross 40, 50 years of age, everybody has gone through this experience when you realize the opinions that you had, let's say 10 years ago, you have a different opinion right now. You're still as ready to die for them and to defend them as you were 20 years ago, maybe an opposite opinion. So what I mean is that there's a point you kind of realize all these ideas that I have, all these opinions, actually, like the Buddha said, if you want to be happy, stop cherishing your opinions. And you start to take a distance. We did so many times, people do so many times to find happiness. It's in a new car, a new job, a vacation, a new house, a new spouse. And then after a while, I realized none of them ever brought happiness. It comes from within. So you mature like this, you reach kind of a deepening, and then the disease comes. And most of the time, the disease, I wouldn't say it derails everything in the sense that you stop paying attention, but it consumes a good chunk of your life where now all your quest is about how can I alleviate this problem. So I'm thinking, this is just I wouldn't say my dream, but my motivation in all of that, our motivation in all of that is that, let's say we give another 10, 20 years of health to people as they reach their 40s and their 60s, so that they can go deeper in this true deepening of who they are. I'm just thinking, with where we are right now with the world, it's actually probably the only thing that could save the world. It's not new ideas that are going to save where we are right now. It's just being different, just being a little bit deeper, a little bit more conscious of what we're doing. And so if we create that space, I mean, let's hope that it generates that kind of momentum or that kind of experience.
Yes, absolutely. And I agree with you, 100%. I mean, we deal we try to help as best as we can. All of our customers who come in with a whole slew of different types of, ailments. And really, when it comes down to it, every single one of those ailments it's energetic.
Yeah. There's a root
it
cause
has
for
to
sure.
do with some type of trauma or stress or a fear or a worry, or an expectation that's not happening.
Yeah.
Right. And
Body
these
gets
things can,
okay.
literally break us down physically. I mean, our brain is just so fascinating in how it interplays, with our emotions and how that interprets our spiritual practices or questioning those spiritual practices and beliefs. And it can really make somebody very, very sick.
Absolutely.
It's the flip side of how we started this conversation, of how that we have our awareness, our intention, our attention can heal the body, and it can also make the body sick, right?
Yes.
If you're focusing on all the negativity and all the fears and all these pressures we place, the same exact thing. You do the brain tap, but the brain tap meditation, only you're putting sickness in the body. And the beautiful thing about getting sick is it can be a great teacher. It can lead you to the path of discovering and realizing life isn't forever. I need to seize this opportunity to live fully and wholly now. But then the hope is that you get well, so the pain and the suffering doesn't take up all the attention. But we can't control how others live their lives and whether they come to these realizations. Of course, it's just the intention we hold in our heart. It's our purpose for why. The why we're bringing the supplement to the world isn't so everyone can live to 180 to biohack themselves and it would be,
and play pickleball.
It would be wonderful.
And play pickleball.
It would be wonderful, but not as a shell of themselves, and not just as a physical walking physical being. It's the inner being, that the light, the real light on the within that matters.
Well, is it okay if we ask? I mean, what was your journey? What is the why of STEMREGEN? How did you land here?
Yeah.
I mean, it was really nothing more, the beginning, nothing more than the outcome of the traditional scientific investigation. I was hired as a scientist to study a specific plant, blue-green algae from Klamath Lake, in 1995. And as I'm studying this plant to understand its mechanisms of action, how it's working, so that the company selling this blue-green algae could have scientific support to support the claims that they were making at the time, so to be able to comply with the newly established Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act back in 1995. As I'm doing this work, I came across people reversing multiple sclerosis, reversing emphysema, reversing Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, diabetes, liver failure, kidney failure, arthritis, lupus. I mean, the list was so long, and it was not just the extent of the benefits that people were reporting, but the broad variety of them. Something touching the heart in one person, someone else's lung, someone else's liver, someone else's pancreas, brain. So the question was, what is this plant doing to bring so many different kinds of health benefits? So in an attempt to try to understand how this plant was working, in the very early days of stem cell research, early 2001, I came across some papers that any one of them didn't tell that story. But as I started to see a number of them, it appeared to me that stem cells were the repair system of the body. It was just an idea, but if we assume that it's true, that stem cells are the repair system of the body, it felt to me that just like you have plants that can support the immune system, if you have a plant that can support the repair system, well, it will go and repair the pancreas of the diabetic, the heart of the heart patient, the brain of the Parkinson. So you should see a broad variety of health benefits coming from that plant. That's what we had with this blue-green algae, with no understanding. So the question was, maybe it supports stem cells. I mean, it was, at the time, I must admit, a very ludicrous idea.
Kind of out there.
It was received by peers as being like total fantasy, like complete fairy tales, like it makes no sense. But physiologically, to me, it made a lot of sense. So we made the investment to buy the machines to be able to count stem cells in the bloodstream. And we very, very quickly discovered that this plant was working as a stem cell mobilizer. And then in my mind, this was like, honestly, I know it's naive, but I remember the day at the office when I'm thinking, my God, we're putting an end to disease. With that understanding, fast forward 25 years later, we're still fighting to bring this message out. But the bottom line is what it is. It's the body's innate repair system. We lose it as we age. And if you can give it back to the body when you're older, your ability to repair can be really impressive. Like we have a study now that was published 2 months ago, the preliminary report, but stable chronic congestive heart failure in the first 10 patients that we have in that study after 6 months. So stable chronic congestive heart failure. These people are at least 2 years after many years of declining health, 2 years stable with that problem. The treatment is not to help the heart repair, it's just to remove some of the burden on the heart to protect the heart. And after 6 months, all 10 have normal heart function. It's just to show the power that your own stem cells can have. And the reason why we have some different problems when we are older is because we don't have enough stem cells to repair like we used to. We didn't have these problems 30 years ago. So if we give back the body its ability to repair, the impact can be significant.
Wow.
It's powerful.
I find it fascinating how his mind works, because it's like he's the true scientist, where you're in a paradigm. We're all sort of in a paradigm, right? We all have these shared beliefs. But his brain doesn't work that way. So he was able to see something no one else could see. And at the time, stem cells were brand new. As a matter of fact, stem cells themselves were invisible in the physiology. That's why we didn't know about stem cells before. It required, his book goes into all the steps of realizing that they weren't just blood cells, because they look like blood cells. And then when they come in contact with tissue of a heart, of skin, of pancreas, of any part of the body, they literally turn into a cell of that tissue. So then you can't tell that it was a blood cell the day before and now it's a liver cell or a brain cell. So it was an invisible process till they were able to tag it with a green fluorescent protein. But nevertheless, at the time, it was just becoming known that stem cells were even a thing. And at that time, hugely controversial. And Christian was like, he just had the download of, well, what if this other thing was happening? Yep. And he literally got labeled Quack of the Week. Didn't you get on Quack of the Week? I've heard several
Quack of the Month
several
of the year.
Good scientists have at one time been on the list of Quack of the Month. You know? So at the time it was ludicrous, but he in the face of a lot of ridicule just kept going forward because the science was there and he could see it with his different scientist and wise man perspective. That's what I would say.
I guess it's the good side of my stubbornness. You know, if you tell me something that makes no sense, honestly, I won't say anything because I don't know. You know, but I won't accept it. So if I see something that is logical to me and the entire world doesn't see it that way, I may not say anything until I have more solid proof to talk about it. But I'm just not going to let go of what makes sense to me. So it's a form of stubbornness, I guess, but this is really what led to all these discoveries.
My dad would call that tenacity.
Okay.
It's the positive side of stubbornness.
Yes. Well, I think it's your experience from lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes.
For sure.
You know?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Along with passion, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank goodness, you didn't stop there just because you were the Quack of the Year. Yeah.
In addition to that, one of the most, widely talked about conversations is about how, things such as, stem cells, for example, right? Like getting it through pills, right, may not be as effective as going in for stem cell treatments as what a lot of people are flying out to do, right? I have a number of different patients that come in, whether it be they're looking for alternative options because they're a little bit afraid of going through those procedures, or they're going through those procedures not seeing any results, or they want to maximize their results. So they're thinking in their head, hey, you know what? Naʻau carries STEMREGEN, and I'm going to go take a flight out to Colombia and get some treatments done. Maybe if I do both, right, it may work. But how would you describe that whole, I don't know if you want to say it's a controversy or whatnot, But there's a lot of people that are trying to rationalize why, the pills won't work, as much as what they would say in regards to, the actual stem cell treatments.
I mean, it's kind of a, how could I say, it's really ingrained in our brain, in our mind, that a simple herbal extract that is in a capsule can never be as powerful as a drug. So that is like deeply ingrained in our mind. So just that obstacle is a difficult one to overcome. So let me approach it from the angle of the numbers. And by the way, it's not stem cells in the capsules, it's plant extract that trigger the release of your own stem cells. Mm-hmm. So, because oftentimes people will say, this is nonsense, stem cells in a capsule would not survive the digestive tract. And they're totally correct. It is not stem cells, it's plant extract. But so you take 2 capsules of STEMREGEN, and what I'm going to say is really conservative data. You will release, I would say, a minimum of 10 million stem cells with 2 capsules. So do this 3 times a day as we do in our study. So that's 30 million stem cells that you have released. Do this for a month. That's about 1 billion stem cells that you have released in that month. You go for and it costs you, I don't know, $500, for that month. You go for a stem cell injection. If you get a really good one, like one of those big booster, it could be up to 200 million stem cells. You may pay $20,000 for this. 200 million stem cells, there's a survival rate of about 20%. So you got 40 million stem cells in that injection of effective stem cells. And that's it. Now you fly back, and these are the 40 million that you got. So when you think, well, is that stronger than the billion that I released in the 1 month, and you can continue for many months after, and it's not just for one issue that you may have, but it's everyday issues. If you cut yourself when you're cooking, as you go to the gym, you need to recover faster. Suddenly the benefits just spreads over every single aspect of your life. So we are trying. So in the study on the heart, we actually have 3 groups. One group is STEMREGEN release alone. The other group is injection of adipose-derived stem cells. And the other group is a combination of both. And there are 2 main questions. How does STEMREGEN compare to stem cell injection? And what benefit do we get by combining both? Because we have practitioners who combine both, and they clearly state that they're getting much better results. But we wanted to quantify that. So now what I can say, it's an ongoing study, but right now what we can say with the data that we have is that if you're getting a stem cell injection, you'd be foolish to not add STEMREGEN to it. It basically doubles the benefits. If you cannot afford a stem cell injection, releasing your own stem cells every day gives you benefits that are comparable over time.
But we don't, in no way, if you can do stem cell injections and you want to do them and you can afford them,
go for it.
It's powerful. There's no, we don't knock it at all, but definitely add STEMREGEN to the mix so you can keep them in circulation longer after you get the injection. But yeah, it's a powerful combination.
Well, and with the injection, I mean, with what we know, right, stem cells don't have navigation systems. So wherever, to my understanding, wherever they're injected, that's where they're going, right? Which is different from your supplement when you're taking it, which they actually stimulate stem cell activity, right?
It will, if you take STEMREGEN, all we do is we put more stem cells in circulation, and each stem cell is equipped with the capacity of identifying which tissue is in need of repair. I mean, it's a language, it's a communication that goes both ways. So the tissue is calling for help, and the stem cell respond to that. When you inject stem cells, the same phenomenon is taking place. But it is true that if you inject them in an organ, like in a joint, then they will much more stay in that joint. Although it's very interesting. Like, for example, there's a growing technique which is called the P shot. So you go somewhere and they inject stem cells in your penis, and it stimulates growth function. But it's very interesting to realize that of the stem cells that are injected, only 2% of them are actually taking part of what is happening in the penis in terms of functionality. So the impact is actually much more systemic. So you inject the stem cells, they go around, They call for more stem cells, and at the end, the overall repair has little to do with the actual stem cells injected. So stem cells really speak to each other. So it's a little bit more complicated than that. There are more layers to the story. At the end of the day is really, you need an injury, you need a tissue that is capable of calling for help, and you need enough stem cells in circulation to respond to that to that call.
Isn't it true, though, that in the cartilage, that's an area that it's more beneficial to have an injection?
Yeah.
It's less vascular.
Any area that has poor vascularization, poor blood supply. So your cartilage, your inner joints, your retina, the eye, these are areas with really poor vascularization. So when you release your own stem cells, we have seen results. We have seen people literally with cartilage regrown. We had a case recently. I was on a podcast with a surgeon, and he was talking about this patient who was scheduled for a surgery to remove a piece of broken cartilage and then be inserted a new piece of cartilage. And as they opened this person's knee, they removed the piece of cartilage that was broken, but there was no cartilage to put back. The cartilage was reformed. But it's not happening in every case. So I would say, if you want to really say, I don't want to wait, I want the results right away, go and do an injection. But we have seen it. There are cases where circulation is enough to really bring these stem cells in terms of supply to the knee or to that area. Retina is the same. We've had results with people with macular degeneration, other types of eye problems. But statistically, it's not one of our most common studies or most common results. Injection in the eye will probably give a faster and greater results. So it depends on circulation. It's true.
Oh, that makes sense. But thank you for, creating the clarity around that, because, these are the questions that are always asked, towards us as well. And, that is exactly the same thing that we mention, is that these are not stem cells, right?
Yeah.
Like these are just, these are ways of getting more in circulation in your body so that you can basically have more raw material so that you can repair, at the root. And, we're noticing amazing results, on all accounts.
It's wonderful. There's also the phenomenon of like where people want those stem cells to go. When you're taking STEMREGEN and you're just releasing more, you're relying on your body's signaling capacity for, well, and let's say you're hoping they go in the knee. Let's say the knee is what hurts. They come into you. They're like, I need knee like support for my knee, and then they're taking STEMREGEN. They're like, I'm not getting support for my knee. Well, maybe it's first going to their heart and then to their liver. Maybe they have an underlying condition that they're not aware of. And then eventually, after the body goes through its own priority based on what's most essential for your health, then it gets to the knee. So for those people, we'll say, okay, well, let an hour, take your STEMREGEN an hour before, then go and do physical therapy where you're making your knee signal. So you're trying to drive the traffic of stem cells to where you want them to go. And that will be a way to help them, help put them in the area you're aspiring for them to, that you're trying to treat.
Or you do the brain tap meditation, which is the reason why it was made. You release your stem cells, and then there is, I would say, all the nervous system, the physiological machinery that we need to guide stem cells using our will to where we want them to go. This whole process exists. It's not proven scientifically, but if we dissect the whole phenomenon, stem cells have receptors for all neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are needed for stem cell mobilization. All blood vessels have receptors have nerve terminals, so the brain can attract stem cells into one area. So when you look at this whole thing, then the idea was like, you can probably guide stem cells by the proper mental activity. And that's that meditation that we talked briefly about before, that is on brain tap. So you release your own stem cells, and then you can probably guide them.
So let's see, you take your STEMREGEN, you lay down, you do your meditation, you guide them, then you go to you do your physical therapy, and then, and then you've got all the stem cells exactly where you want them.
Yeah. But it totally makes sense, because tapping into your own nervous system, you're creating or you're emphasizing these electrical signals to these different areas. You're guiding them. Yeah. And it's no different than, in my perspective at least, we're using all these other types of technology to help guide it, whether it be, pulse electromagnetic frequencies
Red light therapy.
or direct current type of machines that we utilize as well. And these things are emphasized a lot because we deal a lot and we work a lot with people that undergo, before your folks' supplementation came up. We were helping a lot of those that were getting stem cell treatments. And one of the more common things that people would come in for after care or even prior to care, would be hyperbaric chamber, right? Getting more oxygenation into the body, as well as, tapping into some of the other elements that we have here using PEMF as well as direct current from our friends at Newbie. And, the way that people would repair was phenomenal. On those accounts. We actually still use it in the same way with your folks supplementation, where we've had many success stories on, very acute traumas that people would think that, oh, you know what, you need a surgery for your back because you totally broke it. That's what it reminded me of when you were mentioning about the case with the neck injury, really bad surf injury that ended up creating such a success stories, months, like that would typically take years. From my experience working with other surfers that have had similar injuries, and this guy bounced back, and he literally put up a post yesterday or within the past few days of him riding a wave, and we're not talking, the small waves, like we're talking like waves that experienced surfers ride, and to see that return, to somebody that is so connected and so passionate about what they love to do, like that fulfills our purpose, right? Like restoring something that feels like I'm never gonna get that back is what was going on, But he would always mention and talk about the meditation. We would always have these conversations of like visualization. And he would be doing brain tap in there, and he'd be taking STEMREGEN religiously, 3 times a day in the beginning, and then he started weaning down, and he's like 1 a day, and like it was just the proof it was right there, and we were happy to provide that environment for him, but I told him that outside of these walls, like the power is all within you. Like you got to do your work and guide the stem cells to do its magic, as you folks were just mentioning within the meditation.
What you're describing there is probably the most common story that we hear, which is difficult to systemize because every single sports injury is completely different. But overall, and we're pushing a lot right now with professional top athletes, athletes of any kind, and also recovery from surgery, because they're the same in a way. It's like it's a soft tissue injury that needs to repair. And the results are just, anytime somebody comes to share one of these stories, the storyline is almost the same. I'm scheduled for surgery. I have a surgery. I take STEMREGEN release. And then my surgeon told me, what have I done? Because in his career, I'm the patient that have recovered the fastest. With less scar tissue. So you just give back the body its ability to repair. And it's in these cases of injury or surgery where you see the greatest benefits. We hear this all the time.
Because the body's actively signaling, calling for stem cells. That area, the acute injury is signaling like crazy. So if you put more stem cells in circulation, it's just math. You're just putting, you got new cells, lots of new cells every day. I'm really happy for your friend. I'm really happy.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we are too. It was pretty bad. When he came in, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad. Real quick, is STEMREGEN safe for pregnancy?
Yes. But let me just put a little bit of meat on that answer. If we don't do a study specifically with pregnancy or children, then technically we cannot promote a product for children.
Got it.
So the official statement is, if you're pregnant, don't take the product. Over the years, I have seen so many stories of people reporting benefits. I mean, there's even years ago that was with the blue-green algae, which was the first ingredient that we documented. We were working with a doctor in Dominican Republic, and he was working with poor young women pregnant who really had no means of to get health care. And for some reason, through a priest, I believe that was serving that area, it was a missionary there, he asked us to ship some bag, let's say 5 kilos of that extract, and just give it to the mother as a gift for supporting their health. And he kept asking for us to ship product. And when we asked him why, like, what is your experience? And he said, I put every single mother, like during pregnancy, on the product, and he said the pregnancy is strong, the delivery is no problem, the baby is strong, the mother recovers fast, to the point where there's a concept that built. This was in the early days of this blue-green algae product, when they would ask, if you see a young child, you ask the parent, is this an algae baby? Which means a baby that grew up while the mother was taking the product, because you could notice that they were just strong. And so that's the kind of story that we've heard over the years. So all I will say is that the product contains ingredients that have been associated with triggering detox in the body. So you don't want to create detox if you're pregnant. So I would say it's probably not a great idea to start while you're pregnant. But if you're already on the product, by all means, there's no problem staying on the product during your pregnancy. And you can start right after delivery.
Yes.
Yeah, which is totally the conversation we were just having the other day too. Part of it, I think, is the aversion of the smell. Like, you have a little hard time with smells at the moment.
I was having a problem with all kinds of things.
When I make the sachet, she's like, oh, can you cap that? Like,
I mean, to be honest, I'm the master educator for Young Goose, right? And I couldn't use, like, I don't know, 80%.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing 80% of my skincare just because of the smell. I was trying to ask Amitai, can you make something that doesn't have smell?
Can you not put the drop in a special bag?
Can you? Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And it smells good. So how beautiful to watch the pheromones, the hormones, just how at all costs of anything delicious or healthy, you have to protect that baby. Your senses are
at all costs, really.
At all costs.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I had already been on the supplement, so I am super eager to get back on it. Yeah, especially now that I'm eating and the gag reflexes aren't so strong anymore, and the superpower smells have kind of tapered down, which is
It normally helps people post-COVID to regain smell, but in your case, you have too much of that smell.
I have too much. Yes, that is not a superpower. I would rather be quack of the year. This is not a superpower that I would ever want.
But what smells really, really good to you? What's like the antithesis? Can you not get enough of?
Nothing. I'd rather be in a dark room with nothing. Lemon, citrus is fine. I'm not gonna like put my nose on it though, all day, all night. But yeah. But I mean, Christian and Stephanie, you folks have, when you look at your bios, you have two totally different career paths, right? And so, Stephanie, you as an actor and a creative writer and a filmmaker, what brought you together? Because in this conversation, you both sound so passionate.
And so connected.
Yes.
And we love that. We
love that.
As well.
My short answer for how we came together, and the truest answer, is destiny. It was that the universe conspired it feels like to reunite us. That's the truth.
I mean, there's past life in the picture.
Yes, absolutely.
There's no doubt that we just knew each other, and it felt like it was an ordained moment. And I saw it, and I felt it, and I heard the voice of my highest self just unequivocally tell me that if I didn't seize this opportunity, and there was a lot happening in my life 18 years ago, like if I didn't change everything and be with this man, I would regret it. And I don't live in regret. So that was a terrifying statement to hear from my innermost voice. So I professed my love fairly quickly. I literally said, it's a long story of synchronicities, about 6 months of the most magical synchronicities where I had no idea what was going on. You know, all the seeds are planted and we meet each other and then we meet again, but I'm completely I'm oblivious to that love is going to strike. And I was just like walking blindly. And then the crystallizing day happened where I literally, like, even unbeknownst to me, I had to drive away before I realized I just fallen in love.
Wow.
It wasn't until I drove away and it hit me like a ton of bricks. We'd met in Ashland for a couple days and we had a lot of talks about business and what I was doing in my life and strategies. And then I drove away. I was driving over Mount Shasta back to Chico and it struck my heart. My heart literally exploded. And I cried and it was raining over Mount Shasta. And I was just like, and I heard my highest self say, if yes, you must be with this man or you're missing the boat. And I called him a couple days later and I said, what are we going to do?
About what?
He's like, do about what? And I said, we're in love. I didn't even ask. I didn't even think that maybe he wasn't in love too. We hadn't even talked about an attraction. I just felt it.
No, you told him he was in love.
I did. I guess so.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy,
Yeah.
you're in love.
I was like, I knew.
Yes.
You see how confident she talks like about
I was
this.
just like, we're in
Christian, I'm with you. I'm with you on this, Christian.
It took him just a second longer, and he said I had a lot of things I had to handle and close some chapters. And he said, "Will you do what you need to do, and I'll be here." And we were within 2 months we were together, and we've been together ever since. So yeah, 18 years will be our 16-year wedding anniversary this month, and it's just only grown deeper and stronger, and we fall more in love with each other. You know, I feel every day, I feel like he makes me better. He sees the highest version of me, so I can become that. Even if I doubt it or I wonder it, he sees it already here, and so I can step into my truest sense of being and feel his support. Like he takes my wings and he just lifts them up. Is how it
Same.
feels.
She does the same. She does the same.
So destiny. That's how we met.
You know, there was an event because I had seen her twice into a professional setting. She was organizing lectures that I was giving in a place where she was. And at some point, honestly, it was it a joke? To me, it was a joke.
A prophetic joke.
I had told a good friend of mine who knew Stephanie at the time, and I was really done for me with relationship. I lived in a monastery in the past, and I was going to go back to this kind of life.
And be a monk.
So I tell this guy, I says, if Stephanie was available, maybe I would change my mind, but she was not available. So that's why I'm saying it was a joke.
Spell on me.
It was out in the universe for sure.
Maybe 6 months later, so this was all behind. So maybe 6 months later, my spiritual teacher at some point, he says, I understand how you would like to have a real companion in your life. So he said, I'm sending one to you. So this was probably about mid-February. Mm-hmm. And 2 weeks later, she reached out of the blue. And that was the start of really getting together.
I'm here. It's me, I'm back.
Some people pull strings in the background.
Literally, we were set up. It was a big setup. But we were in on it. But we just had forgotten because our brains are dense in human life.
Yep.
Aww.
Yep.
I love this. I love it.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a true sanative connection. Like healing through connection, that's a true definition right there.
Yeah.
We were going to go deeper into that, but I love that. I want to just stick to that one.
It's hard to say, it's some people have said, oh, you guys should write a book on relationships and love. And I I would really have to think hard about putting it into words.
Yeah,
We
I agree
understand completely. Yeah.
It's a state of being, and it's also there's one thing that you can't follow some kind of roadmap for. It's the energetic connection that you innately have, and the love and the trust that just is there. And I wouldn't know how to put a formula on that for someone else to follow, right? Because that part is unique to us. That only our two energetic spheres combined can experience that. So it's something that's very difficult to describe, or to say, oh, you should do this and that, and then everything's great, because it would also be different for you and for someone else. It's like it's like life. Part of our purpose here is to discover ourselves and what we're here for, and how we are giving a unique imprint for the world. We have a special light to shine, and it's the same with our togetherness. We have to discover what it is, and it's unique to us. But I wish for everyone that they find true love within themselves, and then within partnership, whatever that means for each person. It's such a gift. It's such a blessing. We don't take it for granted ever, not ever.
We're raised society, but families. I mean, everywhere. The thing that is really imprinted upon us is that if somebody says something or does something that I don't agree with, then I'm in a position with that person. And if somebody has done to me something that falls into a list of what you would call like egregious things that are wrong or bad, then that's it. I'm not liking this person anymore, or like I'm reacting to it. And there are events in my life that led me to really change this whole view. For me, it's like once I've established that somebody has a good heart, it's honest presence. This person is honest. I will not let a disagreement or something that is done that for whatever reason, attachment, whatever it is, for me, it would be interpreted as being negative. I will not let that destroy the human connection that we have. So I would say I've learned to change the priority, because right now, if somebody does something bad to you, the number one priority is that will dictate what will be my next way of behaving. And for me, I've removed this priority. Is like, no, the priority is the human connection that is there. So in a way, to me, in this relationship, and we do this for each other, it's like that connection is too precious to be stained or touched by
all the superfluous little
disagreements.
If we would even call them disagreements, which we rarely have, but if we do, it's like poof.
Whatever. It's better to drop it and then honor the connection, and it makes everything so easy. Like, we have a disagreement, she's right. That's it. It's over.
Hey, right? It just makes it much.
It's over.
Right, and then once he says that, it's over.
It's over. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's my fault. And then we're fighting over whose fault it is. No, we're not. It's mine. It's mine.
Of course, there are things that are more deep, that are deeper, more profound, but that needs discussion. But my point is that the personal preference will never take precedence over the
unity.
The unity, the beauty of the connection.
Yes.
And
it changes everything.
And we try to honor being, because our lives are busy, and some of them are busy separate, and some of it's busy together. And so at every opportunity, we try and be like a sanctuary for each other. Even like we have to handle our stuff to do, but to be the sanctuary, to be the one person that there are times carved out where we're not bringing up work. I'm not asking him to do things. I'm just being here with him in joy and sweetness and tenderness and playfulness, whatever the moment calls for. But we're each other's sanctuary. Yeah.
Oh, I love
Beautifully
that.
said.
That is.
But she has 90% to do with the great relationship that we have. I have to admit.
No, I just love you.
Well, thank you for sharing your native connection with each other, and really, with yourselves, because it could not happen if you didn't have also that love and connection with yourself.
Yeah.
And one of the most common questions that we all ask our guests on our show is also like, how do you optimize your Naʻau? And I know you folks mentioned meditation. You guys talk about meditation a lot. We've touched upon it quite a bit during this talk, but it seems as though like this is a huge part of optimizing, right? Is the practicing and that connection, especially with one that makes you feel like you can elevate yourself as a human being, but also, elevate both of us, right? As far as the unified couple looks like, right?
Yeah.
We always talk about how we're much more powerful when we're together, and we truly believe it, not just within our business, not just within our relationship, but even as parents, right? And then all of our business relationships as well. But it truly is an example, even just having this conversation with you folks, that statement is true.
Yeah, because that energy emanates, right? And that's truly
it's
how
amplified,
we are
for sure.
able to not just help, but be of service. But this has to be the strength,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The within, right? Like,
yes.
To clear, I find surrender is a daily practice. Surrendering all the things that don't serve, that are getting in the way of maximum light and maximum offering of self to others and to the world. So meditation is a big part of that clearing. You talk about supplementation, detoxing. This is like the detox of the soul and the mind.
Absolutely.
Every day, like starting fresh. Every day is truly a brand new day. Like leave the yesterday gone, wake up anew. And to me, a big part of optimizing my Naʻau.
I love it.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Is joy. Just joy, like the pure sweetness of that it's not even happiness, because happiness feels like it's something you chase. Joy feels like a wellspring that just bursts up naturally and organically. So letting those bursts happen for no reason, like just allowing like myself to be silly and happy for no reason. And so between the spiritual practice of clearing the mind, understanding I'm so much more than this body, this mind, these thoughts, this identity, these roles in life, letting joy naturally rise, letting love, just expressing love freely and fully to my husband and to people. I tell people I love them. It's just letting that energy flow and then protecting this union. To me, that optimizes everything. Then all the other things I add, the nourishment, the exercise, the handling my physical body, taking my STEMREGEN, all my other supplements, I take it. It works because it's got a free vessel to like move freely through. Like the energy is not blocked, so everything can work. And then
joy, there's something magical with joy. It's almost like it's a virus. Like you can propagate it. If you're around somebody who has genuine joy, and it makes you happy. And I'm saying this because I've had periods in my life that were extremely tense, business-wise. When I was the quack of the week, and then other things came with it, like time that were really a lot of pressure. And the simple fact of getting up in the morning with the moment she opens her eyes, it's a big smile. It's just genuine happiness. Just that was, there are times when it was extremely, extremely strong for me. Like it really helped me a lot, just being happy. So thank you.
Oh, well, we can sit here and spend the rest of the day having this conversation with you folks.
You're speaking our language.
Yeah.
Our language, for
We're
sure.
going to have to fly out to your island and we'll have to do this in person.
Yes,
Oh my
absolutely.
gosh, for
Absolutely. Sure. But we so appreciate your time. We so appreciate your knowledge, your energy. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, all of those intimate moments with us, with our with our audience, and really, we can't wait to have this conversation, to build upon this conversation with you both.
Yeah.
Thank you. You guys are beautiful souls, and there's 3 of you here, really, right?
Go.
So
yeah. The other 2, we can hear them in there arguing over their
yes,
music.
They're brother, sister.
Wow.
Bantering, but that's their love language at the moment. At the moment.
Thank you so much.
But really, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful day.
Mahalo again to Christian and Stephanie Drapeau for that beautiful conversation around the science of their supplementation, the science around how stem cells work, and the connection that we all have within ourselves to really regenerate. We all have that power to connect with ourselves and each other in order to create these healing connections that will benefit all of us. You can hear all of our episodes, including this one, Optimize Your Naʻau podcast, which we produce here at Naʻau Wellness and is edited by Jaren Kobashigawa of Tangible Memories. Subscribe to our podcast, follow us on Instagram to discover more stories about healing connections and health innovations. Aloha.
Aloha.